welcome to another edition of Jay's Big Adventure. Jay's the fuzzy one. And today we're going to talk about book value, what that means, where those numbers come from, and how you can use that to your advantage when you go to negotiate a deal. So what I did in preparation for this is I pulled out just a random car, a 2013 Honda Accord Sport, 75,000 miles, automatic transmission, and just wanted to see what the numbers look like. Now, NADA is the National Automobile Dealers Association. A lot of people have heard of them. There's Kelley Blue Book, there's Edmunds, and a bunch of other sources that you can go to. So let's look at what those numbers mean, where they came from. If you look at NADA on a 2013 Honda Accord Sport, they say average trade-in is $8,200. Average retail's $12,600. There's a pretty good spread there. Kelley Blue Book, they didn't do wholesale, but they said retail is anywhere between $10,400 and $12,800. Just for grins, I went to eBay to see what cars were actually selling for. And the book value is good to know, but that isn't what the car is worth if you can't get someone to write a check for that amount. So I checked eBay. A couple have sold there. They went from between $11,000 and $12,551. So if you look at the high numbers, they're like $12,600, $12,801, $12,500. Those are pretty close. And the reason those are close is because there are a bunch of these cars trading hands. That number gets to be pretty solid. This is really what the car is worth, and that's what they sell for. Now, let's talk a little bit about the difference between wholesale or trade-in and retail. And to do that, we need to understand the life cycle of a car. So let's say you have your car, and you buy your Accord Sport new, and it's the top of the circle, and you're really happy, and you love the car, and it's great fun. And then over time, the newness kind of wears off, and you still drive it. It's good transportation, but the love affair is definitely gone. Then you get tired of the car. You really start thinking about trading it. It's got over 50,000 miles on it, and you just kind of stop taking care of the car. May not put tires on it, may not get the brakes done, may not put the timing belt on it, even though you should get that done. And you finally get to the point where you're done and you trade the car in. Now, the dealer's going to steal the car from you. They're going to give you the absolute minimum they can because that's what they do. But they're going to factor in all this stuff that you didn't do because they now have to do that. So they buy the car at $8,200. They're going to do the tires, do the brakes, do the timing belt. They may spend $2,000 or $3,000 on the car. And now they're going to advertise it at $13,500, $14,000, let somebody beat them up to $12,500, and sell the car. So that's what happens. As you start new, it gets to the bottom point of the curve. The dealership stands it up again. They ask big money for it. They resell it, and that's how it sells. So that car that you traded in for $8,200 and they got $14,000 for is the same car. You could have made that spread by getting the stuff done that needed to be done, getting the car detailed, and retailing it yourself. That's why it's rarely a good deal to trade a car into a dealership. There are a couple of rare exceptions. We'll get into that in another video, but that's how this happens. Okay, so the same car that you sold for $8,200 or $8,900 for the dealership, they got $14,000 for. It's the same vehicle. Okay, when you go to a dealership and you say, "Oh my God, this car is listed at $14,000," there's one in my local paper for $8,900. Well, that's your car before you did all the work. Okay, so that could be the same car that you saw in the paper. They got tired, traded it into the dealership. The dealership stood it up, and now they're asking a bunch of money for it. Same exact vehicle, different place in the life cycle. So that factors into the book value as well. How nice was the car when it sold? Okay, that car on eBay that sold for $11,000 versus the one that sold for $12,500, it probably needed tires, brakes, timing belt, timing chain, whatever. And one car had that stuff done, the other one didn't. That's where that spread comes from. But the numbers from NADA to Kelley to Edmunds to eBay are pretty consistent. Now let's look at a different example with something that's much more rare. When you get into the rare cars, there aren't enough of them to trade hands across the country to get solid numbers. So let's look at a 2003 BMW M3 Coupe, 6-speed manual. They made a transmission called the SMG, or the sequential manual gearbox, that was just garbage. Same 6-speed that's in the manual car, but the clutch and the shifter is run by computers and hydraulics. Bad idea, not very reliable, really hurts the value of the car, so I eliminated those from the equation. Figured 75,000 miles on an 03. Okay, it's a performance car. It's probably not going to get driven like an Accord would be, so those are pretty reasonable. NADA says average trade-in is $5,600. Average retail is $10,300. Okay. Kelley Blue Book says average trade-in is $99.54, almost double the NADA value, but retail is only $11,700. Okay. Edmunds, which is trade-in only, said it was $61.90. So you've got a pretty big spread. What that tells me is that there aren't very many cars that were traded in, and their condition varied widely. Okay. On an M3 that has 18 or 19-inch tires and wheels, if it needs tires, those are going to be expensive. The brakes are expensive. On M3s, you have to adjust the valves manually. There's a lot of labor involved. If the car has any kind of oil leaks, now those are hard to deal with, and they're expensive to bring back up to the top of the cycle. So that's why there's that big spread on those cars. Just for grins, though, I went to two performance-oriented sites, eBay and a wonderful site called Bring a Trailer, if you're looking at oddball cars. You can't even put an Accord on there because it's not unique enough. But if you've got something unique, if you've got something rare, you can sell it there. On eBay, there were two cars that sold, one in the last 30 days. One went for $15,700. The other one went for $29,900. That was the selling price of the car. That's what it actually sold for. Almost 30 grand. Okay, Bring a Trailer, there were two that sold. One went for $24,150, and the other one went for $32,000. Now, this is where I like to look. These are the cars that I like to buy, and this is why. If you can buy the car from a dealership for $6 or $8 grand and sell it for 30, that's a pretty good deal. You've got room in there to do the tires, do the brakes, do the maintenance, stand it up, do a killer detail, repaint the front bumper, and there's still tons of markup in there. That's kind of the dream deal. Buy one for 10, sell it for 30. But this is why you have to be careful when you start talking about book value. You can, however, use it to your advantage. If you find an M3 being sold in your local paper by some kid that doesn't really understand what he has, if it's got some miles on it and needs some work, that's a really golden opportunity, because you can say, look, book value says the car's only worth 10 grand. Okay, it needs $2,000 worth of tires and wheels and brakes. I'll give you 8. But if it's in good shape and you can stand it up and resell it, now you've got a huge amount of profit potential in a car like that. Now, one other thing that factors into this is Carfax. Okay, Carfax or VinCheck, those sorts of services will tell you if the car has been wrecked. It doesn't have a flood, salvage, rebuilt title, which is really important. I don't mess with cars that have those, and how many owners it's had, and also the service history. I'm going to show you a Carfax now that has a bunch of this information on it. This is actually a car that I owned for 2 years. It's a 2005 BMW 330i ZHP, which is a performance package car. 4-door, black on black, 6-speed manual with navigation, super hard to find, perfect condition, didn't have any body work, had never been painted, completely original condition, super nice car. If you look at the very first line in the Carfax history report, shows the in-service date of the car, when it was sold, when the car originally traded title. It may say the dealership got it on this date, but what you look for is that first sale. And it'll say car reported sold, new title issued, something along those lines, the date and the miles that are on the car when it's sold new. Typically it's single digits, but if it was a dealer demo, it could have a couple thousand miles on it. But that service date is when the warranty starts clicking. So if you're buying a late model car, 3-4 years old, that may still have some warranty, that's how you determine when the warranty started. That'll then tell you when it runs out, that very first date. Then it'll tell you how many owners the car has had, and the service history will show anytime the car came in for service, what was done and when the miles were, and where the service was performed. On my particular car, it was in California almost its entire life. It was serviced at a BMW store exclusively for its entire life, and it got really good service because it was done according to BMW's recommendations. If all the car has is oil changes from Jiffy Lube and it's 10 years old, I guarantee you the transmission fluid's never been changed, the brake fluid's never been changed, probably the antifreeze has never been changed, and now you've got a bunch of work to do to stand that car back up if you're going to sell it with a clear conscience. That's also where the money comes from, because you can do this stuff for a lot less money than the dealership can, add value to the car, and then you can get overbooked for it. So if you look through these service records, there's 21 records on the car. A bunch of this is service history at BMW stores, and it shows when it was sold, when it was retitled, where the car moved to if it moved out of state. In this particular case, mine didn't. It stayed in California the whole time. And the last entry will be when you purchased the car. Now, if we repolled this car after I sold it, you'll see that I sold the car with 92,000 miles on it, and it went to Texas. The guy that bought it had one just like it. It was totaled out from under him. He was panic-stricken trying to find the right car, and I got a really good deal when I sold the car, made a bunch of money on it, even though I had driven it for 2 years. That's how this program works. Look for that car that's unique, look for the car that has some potential, and work that spread between wholesale and retail, what the cars are actually selling for, what the book says it's worth, and good luck. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments. If you've got a story that you want to share, leave it in the comments. We're always looking for new ideas for segments. And please like, please share, and please subscribe. Jay says thank you.